back to Marketing Decoded, a podcast by Davis Marketing Company. I'm Sarah.
I'm Bailey.
Today we're going to be talking about how small businesses can thrive with marketing strategy.
So why does creative marketing matter?
Well, oftentimes small businesses, they have a lot smaller budget, so therefore it's going to be a lot harder to stretch it, so you really need to get creative with your marketing. With their creative marketing, they can stand out and compete with a lot of larger companies, and it also helps them to connect meaningfully with their customers.
Yes, so small business does not mean small marketing. I think that there are many different ways to get creative. Sometimes it can seem like a little bit of a reach when you're trying to get creative, but to me, when you're reaching so far, like, you're usually standing out from other people because people can stay stagnant and keep it small-minded, I guess, when it comes to creative marketing. So sometimes it's good to do a little bit of a reach.
That's very true.
What keeps you creative personally?
Personally, I like to look at a lot of just inspiration and pull inspiration from kind of, like you said, even if it's a bit of a reach, just pull inspiration from wherever. So maybe I'm watching a movie and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way that I saw how they marketed that movie. That was weird.
Yeah.
Or I'll look at, maybe trending brands right now. You have certain ones that are popular with younger generations or my generation, like Skims. You have Drumstick is doing some really weird, interesting TikToks to really, get that younger audience.
Yeah.
So really looking at other brands and seeing how they're thinking outside the box can help you also to think outside the box.
And you also paint.
That's true.
That is also something that is creative. Do you feel like your painting influences like your graphic design and vice versa, or not really?
I think it does in a way, because I think with graphic design you have to learn like different layouts or more interesting, like visually appealing ways to, make a design on just a blank canvas on your computer.
Sure.
And I think sometimes when you go into painting, you don't really think of that aspect of like the actual design aspect. You just think, oh, does this brushstroke look, realistic enough or whatever.
Right.
But I think, kind of going back and forth between the two also helps you, again, to be creative, to just, kind of help switch it up between the two.
Yeah. I personally am not very creative. I try my best, and I have like my every once in a while ideas come out, but it's always good to reduce, reuse, recycle when it comes to certain things, either that you've done in the past or you get inspired by what others are doing, kind of like you mentioned before. Yeah, there's so many different ways to get creative, and with our graphic designers, I feel like I always hear them talking about different ways that they get creative. Just like you said, with painting and stuff like that, doing stuff outside of work, watching movies, is always really important. What's something that you've done recently at work that you feel like you got more creative?
Good question. Because, some things are so templated, you're not really able to get creative.
Yeah.
I had a really fun t-shirt design where I had a burger in the background, which is kind of basic, but then I had a fun little catchphrase that was "bite me, no seriously."
Yeah.
And I thought that was just kind of fun and cheeky and stuff.
Oh, I love that.
So it's always, you can always get really creative with t-shirt designs, and I think that's what is really fun, because who doesn't love a fun t-shirt?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, with the design, it was pretty basic with just the burger, but then the wording is what you got creative with, and I think that's a perfect example of how smaller businesses can get creative. Puns are huge, play on words, that kind of thing, like kind of what you were saying, bite me. I think that is super easy ways on social media or in print items, t-shirts, promotional items, anything like that, that will make you stand out from other brands. Especially sometimes those big companies that have tons of money, they have to stay within kind of a box. True. Whereas like a smaller business can experiment with certain things and just try stuff out, and if it doesn't work, then they move on to the next thing.
Yeah. It's not going to be a huge PR atrocity if it's, like if we're a big company, like, the American Eagle ad that just came out. It's what everyone is talking about, but not in a good way.
Right.
But if a smaller business made like a little mistake, maybe not that big of a mistake, but if they made a little mistake or the marketing just didn't, help them as much, then it's not going to be as big. Like you said, you can just kind of switch it up and, do what you were doing before or go a new direction, and it's a simple slip up, whereas for a big company, it's not so simple.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we already kind of touched on, you know, with smaller businesses, you have smaller budgets. And I think when you're creative, you don't have to have tons and tons of money. Like if you're able to buy one billboard and have your campaign run on that and have people know you from one certain thing, you know, it's okay that you have a smaller budget. It's okay to not spend, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars on promotional items with just your name on it, but something that's cute and fun, and creative. I think with social media specifically, you can, like I said, do a little bit of a reach. And I feel like one specific way we've done that with our own marketing is with like national days. You can always get ideas from national days, but we always try with our clients and with ourselves not to do just Happy National T-shirt Day or whatever. We come up with something to go along with that. So there was one instance on our social media that it was National Hat Day, and so me and another employee had actually gotten 2 leadership positions in our civic organization, and we have management roles here. So for National Hat Day, we took some cute pictures wearing different hats, but the caption was along the lines of congratulating us for being able to have those leadership positions in the civic organization and also being managers at our job, signifying we wear multiple hats. So that's, again, it's kind of a reach because you have to sit there and explain all of that, but then it does kind of get you thinking too, you know what I mean? So we try to do stuff like that. I think that's, you know, a simple way to get creative. And then do you want to talk about what you recently did with Fierce Award, like what we do now with Fierce Award instead of just posting a picture?
Yeah, Fierce represents our core values, and so each month at our staff meetings, we'll always award one person the Fierce Award for, you know, sort of like an employee of the month, and they'll get a little bit of money, you know, and so instead of just having a picture of them posted on our Instagram, we'll have just a fun video now, a fun TikTok, and it makes the whole experience way more fun, makes the whole thing personable as well. And so recently, what Rachel and I did for ours, or for my Fierce Award, is I was fanning myself with money and had a little song in the background that followed a current TikTok trend. And it made it a lot more fun, and that's one thing that I like about our company is that you always see the faces behind the work.
Absolutely.
And that's not something you see with all the marketing companies around here or even globally. You know, I wouldn't know if Joe Smith worked at, you know, so-and-so place.
Right.
But I see that Bailey works at Davis Marketing Company and like, oh, I know Bailey, so I want to go Davis Marketing.
Yeah, and that's also, that can lead us into our next point of customer-powered content. So basically what that means is when Sarah gets posted, then maybe her mom or her friend shares the content, and that's going to be organic reach rather than paid reach. So you're saving money in that regard of it's still getting reach, but it's being shared by your loyal customers or your people that have connections with you. And that's something that we always try to tell our clients is to make sure to share your people. Not everybody's a huge fan of getting their picture taken, but it really does work. Like, people love seeing faces, and that's super, super important. So some other ways that you can get creative, some micro collaborations. Obviously, we don't live in a super big town or city, but we still were able to do a micro collaboration specifically with our local fair. We collaborated with them to post a giveaway for tickets to the fair last year. So not only were we promoting a client, a local civic organization, we were also helping raise money for their causes that they support, and then also getting more people coming to our page, sharing, liking our page. That's a huge way to, you know, get more likes to come in, is do giveaways. And again, with the micro collaboration, finding someone, a local business that you can support where you bought a particular product or a gift card or something like that. Sometimes, and no hate to anybody that does this, but you might have done a giveaway with just a t-shirt from your company, and you might not have gotten as many shares. Well, a lot of people have t-shirts, so they're not gonna go and share on their page and do all this other stuff. It's not as much of an incentive. Rather, if you did like some cool cornhole boards or a cooler, or if you don't want to do a micro collaboration, you could do a Visa gift card or something, because everybody likes money.
And I think the biggest takeaway from that is that even with these small collaborations, you get a lot of like big visibility with it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's always about cross marketing, cross promotion. We're always a huge fan of that. If there's any way that we can connect several of our clients together to cross promote, and usually we're able to do that. And it just shows that it's always super important, especially in smaller areas, to support local, to support your neighbor and that kind of thing. So moving on to a different way that you can kind of get creative is behind the scenes videos. We do this all the time with one of our clients, and one, it's showing the people, it's a manufacturing company, so it's showing how they manufacture. It kind of takes you in, gives you the inside scoop, that kind of thing. And then it also gives you an idea of who's making these products for you. I think that's super important. Sometimes you like to see who's making your food or making your stuff, and sometimes you don't want to see who's making your food. But it definitely gives a different aspect to it rather than just, hey, come buy our product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think you can get creative with video just generally, like even if it's not just behind the scenes, but even with this podcast, we do our funny bloopers, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot from today. It could be anything, and that way you're still getting that reach, you're putting that out there. Because a lot of times these larger companies, they're so busy with what they have going on, or they have so many people, they're not able to get to everyone. So I think that gives you kind of an edge to those larger companies.
Yeah. Some of the real world examples I like to think of with these like smaller marketing tactics might be like a local bakery, right? Because a local bakery, you have mom and pop in the back making the biscuits, right? They're not going to have the money to do a TV ad, and maybe not even a billboard sometimes.
Sure.
But that's why social media is such a great tool, because it's so accessible to everybody, even the smallest business out there, right? So some things that I like as an example that they could do would be, a TikTok series, like you said, like a behind the scenes TikTok series. Right. I love watching people bake and, getting all the good recipes, all the mom and pop recipes. Yep. That way I can save it in my folder and then probably not use it, but but think about baking it.
Yeah, you got it.
But it makes it fun. It makes it, it's not just, you're putting a pre-made batter into, an oven like you would see at like a big corporation, right? It's like, look at them in the back, making it fresh, with all the butter and stuff. And so I think that'd be a great way of just like some small TikTok videos. Another way, and I love this idea, is to host a cupcake naming competition. That's fun. So basically people in your Instagram comments, you can say, okay, the biggest liked one will, this will be our new cupcake flavor, and they can just make it really creative and fun. It'll be funny for your customers as well. And it gets a lot of engagement, because who doesn't want their idea for a cupcake actually coming to life?
We actually did that here before your time.
Really?
Yeah, we did this for East Georgia Healthcare. We did a competition naming an elf on the shelf. Okay. So you'll probably during Christmas you'll be helping with that. We start posting pictures before the holidays of the elf on the shelf, and I think his name's like, I could be wrong, but I think it's like Minty something.
It's something like that.
It's something very cute, and it also got the kids involved, which is, I think, super fun. So and that worked great for them. That did really, really well.
Yeah, and it's just such a fun thing to do. And I mean, again, who wouldn't want their name idea to, be given out? It's super fun. And then another idea, just like last but not least, is again like these micro collaborations. So bakeries and coffee shops, they go hand in hand. If you get a croissant, you're going to want a coffee as well. So a really great idea for a local bakery would be just to collaborate with a local coffee shop. We have a Billion here, downtown. And you can make a limited menu for that week, or like a special holiday menu, or maybe there's like a special event going on. We have a lot of college football going on. Maybe you could have like a drink named after one of the footballers or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that again is just like a fun, low cost way, because it costs nothing really.
Yeah.
Just to be able to get your name out there, especially the coffee brand's a little bit well known, or maybe you're both not super well known and you can rise up together.
Well, I think that's something that I find very interesting. Like some of our local either restaurants or bakeries, like you said, will feature like barbecue from another local restaurant or coffee from, you know, a local coffee shop. And I always think that's so fun to be able to support other local businesses, and I've said it earlier, and it just shows community.
Exactly.
You know? And we have another podcast about community involvement out, so you can go check that out. You know, anything in a small area is super important to support community and to support each other. And I think, you know, we talked earlier about having faces. If your employees or you have a small staff, you know, aren't super keen on getting on social media, like maybe support a local high school or something like that. Like we're lucky enough that we live in a college town and we can support our college. If you don't, you could support your local high school, get some football players to come out, to get different sports players and do like a player of the week or something like that. Or have like a player come, if you're a restaurant specifically, you can pick their favorite dish and make that a special that week or something like that. So I think the best thing about being an agency though is being able to help come up with these ideas for people, because when, like, if a restaurant comes to us, they're worried about food costs, they're worried about what special they're going to make this week, they're worried about who's going to be on their schedule coming into work. And so when they come to us and say, hey, I want to do something creative, I want to work with other local, you know, brands, like we're able to do stuff like that. And I think that's my favorite part of this. And I know like social media is our bread and butter, but like being able to consult on this kind of stuff is so much fun.
I agree completely.
Well, I enjoyed this podcast with you, Sarah, even though it was a little rough to begin with. You'll see it in the bloopers. We were struggling today. But thank you for watching. Go check out our other episodes. Signing off.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.